Hello and welcome to Fueling Around with me, Jason Plato, and the jam in my sponge. It's Dave Vitty.
Hello.
Fueling Around is powered by Adrian Flux. As the UK's largest specialist insurance broker, Adrian Flux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help you save money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance. Now then, jam in my sponge, Dave Vitty. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, good.
I see you've been at Goodwood recently.
Yes, scare myself stupid. You know that Baz Luhrmann track, Sunscreen?
Yes. Yeah. Do something every day that will
scares
scare
you.
Yeah.
3 things every day I did. I'm knackered.
I was watching the YouTube earlier on today and just, oh my, what was it? Were you in a Mustang or something, trying to keep that thing on the track?
I was in a Boss Mustang, stuck it on pole. That was nice. Retired and then raced with a throttle linkage failure whilst line second. And then the really scary thing is a big block Corvette Stingray, 7.3 litre. Doesn't stop. Funny enough.
Doesn't turn?
Well, in fact, the only thing, it doesn't turn. It goes straight and fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great weekend. Great weekend.
Terrifying stuff. Right, I'm excited about today. You?
Yes, I am, because our guest today is a celebrity chef like no other. Because there's loads of chefs that can cook steak or fish or pasta and all that sort of stuff. But how many can you think of that know what they're doing with a baked Alaska or even one of those Black Forest gâteaux?
Not many.
Best known as the star of the Great British Bake Off and the owner of the Hollywood Handshake, it's, of course, Mr. Paul Hollywood.
Hello, guys. All right.
How are you?
I'm good. Weather has picked up, which I'm very happy about. So I think I'm not long back from Mexico. Been in Mexico for nearly a month, been doing some work out there.
Nice.
And my stomach's still adjusting to the chilies and tarantulas and scorpions.
I thought you were going to say you're just back from the hairdressers.
Well, not yet. I'm going there later. Our booking, because they've got to basically whiten the rest of my hair.
Why? Because it's gone lighter in the sun.
Well, yeah. You see, years ago, I was very pepper. Now, Then I was salt and pepper, and now I'm just salt.
No, see, I've got some inside info.
Yeah.
That is all not make-believe. You're actually ginger underneath all that, aren't you?
Well, my eyebrows sort of give it away. No, I've always been dark brown as opposed to black. But I mean, I like the fact that I don't colour my hair. There's so many people out there that colour their hair on telly. I'd love to name them because...
oh, come on, now's a good time.
I mean, this is a perfect opportunity, Paul Hollywood.
Come on, just give us one big one. Big name. No, don't do that mute thing.
Right. For those that aren't here for the recording process, Paul is doing the thing of miming the name and pretending that his sound isn't working. We're not having that.
No, I can't. I'd never do that to people. But people know. The people in the know, they know.
Well, give us some initials then.
No. I mean, ultimately... you see, I've got God's highlights. I mean, so have you, Jace. You've got God's highlights. We're just going disgracefully grey and white.
No, it's not grey, mate. It's silver.
Mine's very white. Look, see. I started going grey when I was 16, though.
Really?
Yeah, I was 16. I was in school, and I started to get, like the Peter Parker. Remember the guys at the... I think he was the Bugle. He was the editor of the Bugle, and he started getting white. I was like that when I was 16.
But that must have been far better than, I always feel sorry for the people that go bald at the age of 17 and 18 and stuff like that. I mean, that's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been lucky on that, but my granddad was bald, and from when I was a little kid, he just seemed to be perpetually bald.
Yeah.
So I was half expecting that to happen. My dad is still around, and he's still got a full head of hair at 17.
Has he?
Yeah.
Mate, tell me, Bake Off 12 years young.
13 years this year we started.
Is it? Wow.
Everybody must say this, Paul, but I mean, you couldn't have had even the slightest inkling, could you, in 2010 that it would become the colossus that it has done?
No, it's been amazing. I mean, I think ultimately it surprised everybody. I remember talking to Sue when we first started, and I said, "Do you think it's going to do anything?" She said, "Nah, I can see." But I mean, when it started, the first series we did, I think we peaked at 2.5 or 3 million. And the second series we peaked at 5.5, then 7.5, then 9.5, then 11, then 15, 17. We actually got to 22.5 million.
Yeah. Is that right?
To Ronnie's level, we were doubling what Strictly was doing. We doubled what Strictly were doing on a Wednesday night as opposed to a Saturday evening.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Absolutely astonishing.
It's like a guilty pleasure, isn't it? Because it's such a warmy, friendly, lovely kind of thing, isn't it? It's easy to watch.
It came in from nowhere. I think it's very nostalgic. I think everyone can bake. And I also
speak for yourself.
But I think it's something which you've got some memories of something. Fun or a sausage roll or whatever. And I think the British are great bakers anyway. I think they are great bakers. And I think the program tapped into almost the generation game style, like Strictly, where whether you're male, female, 5 or 95, you can watch the Bake Off. I think it's very much a family show.
Yeah, and it's, as I say, as Jason mentioned before, it's just got a nice feel about it. There's nothing snide about it. There's no sort of, it's just warm and friendly and encompassing. And I mean, even now in the lineup where you've got people like Noel Fielding and stuff who you think might sort of go a bit more edgy, it's still really warm and lovely.
Right. Oh yeah. Noel really took to that, and I mean, I was surprised when they picked Noel because I never even thought of Noel. I mean, down to Love and Channel 4, but when they mentioned it, I thought about it, and then I know he went to a nursery, I think, with a camera, and they just allowed him to go and talk to everybody, and he was brilliant. Everybody loved him. He was so warm, and that comes through today because you see him talking to the bakers. All the bakers love him because he's funny, warm. He puts your arms around you, and you're panicking in front of the camera. I
can imagine in real life or offset, it's just like he is on. I would imagine. I don't know. I've never met the guy.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's quite quiet. I mean, quite a quiet guy. He's very funny. And I think what's nice is sometimes when we finish filming on lockdown, which we have been for the last 2 years, Bake Off, we had Noel, Matt, Prue, and myself, and not every night, because a lot of us ran back to finish my book, and I was doing this book which is currently out now, and then my Matt was off doing a script, Noel was doing a script for something he was doing, Prue was writing another one of her porn books, and then
hang on, please don't ever say that. Jason was halfway through a swig of tea then when you mentioned Prue's porn books, and he's pretty much wet his lap.
That was nearly a nasal shot. It nearly went up and out. Is she into that then? The dirty old minx, eh?
Well, I haven't read. I've read one of her books, but it's very, sort of. It's not sort of my book, and so Prue had it liner, and I just sort of read it through with one of the guys on the crew, and then we came to this page, and I was like, it was, I mean,
saucy,
yeah, raunchy. And I went, Prue, this is disgusting. So I said, I didn't realize you wrote porn. And then it sort of stuck. I mean, I think Prue is, as a businesswoman, is one of the most successful women I've ever met. I mean, what she hasn't done in her business, you're shocked of companies she's ran and looked after.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing but respect for Prue. And she's so full of life. It's like opening a bottle of sparkling water when you shake.
Yeah.
That's Prue when you meet her.
Well, do you know what? When I was on my book tour, I did a theatre in Yeovil, and she was on just before me. So we had a little chat in the green room and stuff. And she was great fun, like really good fun, eh?
Yeah, she is. She's sweet. And her husband, John, I mean, he rides a 3-wheeled Harley Davidson trike, and Prue sits on the back. They go down to the pub. I mean,
it's good.
You know what I mean? I mean, brilliant. Absolutely epic.
Paul, tell us about the book then. What's it called and when's it out?
Well, the book's called Bake, and it's out in June in the UK, and it's in July in the US.
And what's it about?
Well, it's about, basically it's about daffodils. I'm really into daffodils. And I particularly like the colour yellow. But I think ultimately the book is about, it's a generic thing actually, because I wrote it during lockdown in Bake Off, funny enough. And the book is basically the classics been tweaked and tested and made better. And so they're all things like lemon drizzle cake, a chocolate brownie. So you'll get those sort of classics. Right. But then I've added more chocolate and I've booked it and I've wetted it down a little bit so it bakes and still a little bit gooier than it should be. And so it's going back to those favourites that in the Bake Off, I've tried them over the years and I thought, well, that's nice. What have you done to that to make that? And basically all my knowledge, and when they were all tested by friends of mine locally, they all came out and went, it's the best one I've ever had. I went, great. Now we're getting the feel for what the book's all about. So the book is basically one of those books you have to have on your shelf. I want it covered in flour and well used, you know what I mean? That's the book when I pop my clogs. That's the book I've got baked by Paul Hollywood. I think because the amount of signing I'm doing around the country, it's going to be interesting. If you can get one without it being signed, it's probably going to be worth more.
Send it through then.
Paul, on the subject of baking, how much science is involved in it? Because obviously it's all about the different mixing and weights and stuff. It is a scientific process, is it not?
Well, I mean, cooking is to a degree, but the thing is about baking, it's about that reaction, whether it's a baking powder, a bicarb with an alkali acid to create carbon dioxide, or you're dealing with a yeast that, as it grows, produces carbon dioxide, which produces the air pockets. And then it's that reaction between the salt and the yeast, or salt and the sugar and the eggs. And so it's very much a science project. That's why weighing up is critical. So there's two things you need to have. Three things, actually, if you're going to bake properly. One, you need a good set of scales. Scales, which are nice and clean. The second thing, you want your oven balanced. So it actually does the temperature that it's saying on the, the readouts. And three, you need book bake. And I think if you've got
but see, that's an interesting question, that, Dave, because I would imagine to get a good baking recipe takes, back in the day when they created all these stuff, massive trial and error.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, unless it's perfect, it doesn't work. Whereas, cooking a steak or chucking a bit of onions on X, Y, and Z, you can kind of freestyle that because it just does its thing. Whereas, so is that true then? Back in the day, it just took forever to find a really great recipe.
I mean, it's like, for instance, Iceland. I was in Iceland a couple of years back.
The shop or the country?
He'd gone in for a beef garland.
I was in Iceland. And basically, I went to this restaurant, and the guy had made a meringue, and I tried this meringue. It was grey, but I tried. It was delicious. It tastes like a meringue for all, but it was just grey with a slight grey interior. And I said, "How did you get that grey? Have you put chocolate in it or what?" And he says, "No, it's blood." I went, "What?" And basically, he'd emulsified sheep's blood, because they don't waste anything on Iceland. They emulsified the sheep's blood with sugar, and it emulsifies and whips up like a meringue. And basically piped it, treated like meringue, and baked it, and it tasted like a meringue, but it was blood.
I don't like the sound of that.
Who the hell invented that?
Beautiful. Right, listen, baking done, book plugs done. Let's talk cars. Where did it all start for you, Paul? What are your earliest car memories?
I think I was 17, August the 23rd, 1983. I passed my test. I remember my dad had always said he'll help me get my first car. And I think on the understanding that he was going to buy me one, I thought. What he actually did was he organised a loan. So he bought me a 1.3, not even an L Escort, Ford Escort in Nordic blue, the most hideous you've ever thought of.
The Mark III with the sort of shelf back, or the Mark II?
It was one of the newer ones, at the time. But it was the shelf back, the round back. Never even had bumper overrides on. I never even had headrests.
It's unbelievable that cars didn't have headrests until like the 80s, was it?
Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s?
It was incredible that it became legal. You had to have headrests. But this car had like blue plastic seats, and it was great to have a car and you could drive around in, you know what I mean? So I was waiting for my dad as a baker, so he gave me a company credit card so I could get across the Lincoln. I used to go across and see him from Wirral. So it had quite a heavy balance on it because it was a company credit card. So down the road from me at Tatton Hall in Chester was the original office of Demon Tweaks. So I toddle off down to Demon Tweaks and say, "Have you got I'm after a few things." And he went, "Yeah, what do you want?" I said, "Rear spoiler for an XR3, decals for an XR3, RS6 with stripes up the bonnet, bumper overrides, XR3 front RS 1600 spoiler, headrests, new stereo, new speakers."
And you had a ringer. XR3 ringer.
It can't cost me a fortune, right? And then he put it all on, and then all of a sudden my dad saw the car and go, "That looks different." So it was basically a 1.3 base car. Its face off, trying to go down a motorway to get 60 mile an hour out of it. And ultimately, it looked amazing because it actually looked like XR3. the I wasn't out then. It was just the XR3. And it was the only one I'd seen in Nordic blue, but people used to think it was an XR3.
You know, talking about getting all the kit and sort of bolting it on. I had an old Cortina years ago, and I went to Halfords and I bought one of those big rubber spoilers, you know, the ones that you had to sort of drill in. But the thing was, it made the boot so heavy that when you got something out the boot, it used to come down and twat you on the back of the neck.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you put that extra weight, it was like pumping iron.
So what came after the faux XR3 then? What came after that?
I had, I think after that, I was really, what was it? Oh, MGs. I got into MG midgets.
Did you?
I had a yellow one, then I had a white one. My mate had them as well, and it was one with the plastic bumpers. I remember going up to a set of lights, and our bumpers used to actually hit. They're like bumper cars, so we used to come up and sort of hit each other quite hard when they were at light. And then I floored it and pushed them across the
across the junction.
And then we wrecked loads of the brackets that hold on these bumpers, because I nearly broke his off, hitting him quite hard at the back. And I remember the copper coming up the other way, pulled him over because he crossed the line. Yeah, foot on the brake as hard as he possibly could, but I could just push him across the line.
So where did the racing come from? Because obviously I know, you know, we know each other from that as well as other things. Yeah. But you've not done any of that recently, have you?
No, I think COVID put a scupper to a couple of them, and I think also my job, very difficult to race during the middle of Bake Off.
Yeah,
because the insurance company said, "What, you want a what?" No. So the last race I did was at Donington in 2019. I did 3 races at the British GT Cup. It was.
Yeah. In an Aston, was it?
Yeah, I was in the GT4, came second and third.
Good on you.
I was happy because I hadn't been pedaling for a while. And the only time before then I did Austin, Texas, 24-hour race for the GT World Cup, and we came second. We actually were first. And I had a problem with one of the drive shafts broke down the main straight. So I managed to, how the hell, it must be a link connected, because I limped back. And I thought, can you fix it? And he went, get out of the car. So they actually fixed it in 40 minutes, and we were back out again, and we were third, and we got back to second.
Brilliant.
It's all right. But I enjoy it. I raced at Le Mans. I was in the support race there with Jamie Chadwick. Co-driver, and Jamie's a great racing driver. He's
a fast lad, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Jamie and Ross, because Ross Gunn was the other one. Ross is phenomenal. He's over in America now racing with the pros out there. And then I was lucky. I had Johnny Adam, Darren Turner. They were all my instructors when I was doing my arts and stuff and racing.
They're not bad lads, are they? They've done all right over the years, haven't they? Both of them.
I mean, I enjoyed. They approached me because I had a DB9 back in, must have been 10 years ago, maybe more. And Aston Martin approached me, and Beechdean Aston Martin, Andrew Howard, who owns Beechdean, contacted me and said, "Would you like to come and try the race car at Silverstone?" Yeah, so Darren Turner was there. So I turned up, met Darren, jumped in the car, went round the track a couple of times in the GT4, and I think they were GT champions at the time in the GT3 and the GT4. So I just started piling around. It was pouring with rain. I was aquaplaning everywhere. And then they said, "Yeah, great, go in the pits." So Andrew was in the big truck. We went up, and he was looking at telemetry and stuff, and he said, "Would you be interested in doing some racing for us?" Now, I haven't got a license. Said, "We'll sort that out." And then straight away, I started doing my license and did a bit of, that was funny, because I ended up doing a bit of marshalling at Brands Hatch, and you were racing. And I was trying to tag you every time he passed.
I didn't know that. I wish I'd known that.
It was big touring cars, so I was the bottom near Graham Hill, Ben.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. What's he waving that for?
So I noticed then with you, obviously, they asked if you wanted to do some racing after they'd seen you out doing a few laps. They weren't going to ask you that before they'd seen you in the car.
No, they were clever. I mean, I used to go-kart, and I raced a lot in Cyprus back in the 90s in go-kart. And
you were working out there, weren't you, in Cyprus?
Yeah, I was 6 years. I was there, so I ended up doing a lot of go-karts now, which I really enjoyed. And that was the sort of, I've always been into, nice cars, and I remember buying my first second-hand DB9 about 10, 11 years ago now. I was buzzing, just waking up in the morning, looking at it, just going, Aston Martin. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Isn't it a nice feeling when you remember your first saucy car, and every time you park it when you walk away, you just can't
look
stop
behind.
turning around, having a look at it.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling that, or clocking it, if you say driving down the high street, and then you can see the reflection in shop windows.
It's a glass.
Yeah.
Or if you meet someone, because normally if I see a van with a mirrored window, they're normally paps. So I'm normally get angry and duck behind a tree. But if I'm passing one in a car, I look for them. I go, I got a good view of the car here. But it's something which, it was a dream. I remember, everyone dreams of winning the lottery or get a load of money. What would you do with it? And you say, what's your dream car? Where would you go in? I remember talking to Aston about this and said, do you get people who have just won the lottery go into the showroom and say, I want that car? And he says, it happens all the time. I went, no. And he goes, yeah. I said, can you confirm my daydream, my dream of what would happen? Say I won the lottery and I walked in and said, I want that car and I want it this afternoon because I don't want to wait 3 days.
Yeah.
Make that happen. And he went, yes. What? So you could literally sit outside, have a cup of tea, waiting with you, waiting for your money from Camelot to be transferred over. And then you turn around and go, I'll have it. And then you literally just drive away your brand new Aston Martin. I mean, that feeling, incredible.
So that's always been the car for you then, has it?
Yeah.
As a boyhood car fan and I mean, the one thing that links everybody together obviously on this series is the fact that we are all cut from the same cloth. We're all kind of petrol heads. And just before talking about looking at yourself in the car in a reflection, there's so many people for whom a car is just a thing. It just gets you from A to B. And I think the difference with us is I think you've got to really fancy your car. Do you know what I mean? That thing about clocking it and looking back and coming out the car park and kind of go, that's mine, that is.
Ooh.
Yeah, it is though, isn't it? It's just like that. It's like fancying a piece of metal.
Yeah.
I know people say, it's almost phallic, it represents, it's trying to, compensate for whatever.
Yeah.
What a load of rubbish. Ultimately, my Mini is something which...
Yeah.
But ultimately, the cars themselves they have characters to me. I enjoy spending an afternoon really, cleaning the car down, giving it a good wax, and enjoy making it look the best it possibly can, giving it a good polish.
Polishing the rocket.
Yeah.
But you know what? But it is, if you think about it, it is quite a strange thing when you think about the fact that this is a piece of metal and it's a machine, and why, unlike anything else in the world, do we have this, or some of us have this deeply personal human kind of bond? Do you know what I mean? It's odd because even little things like, again, if you're not into cars, this means nothing to you. But the fact that the right set of wheels will completely change the look of a car, 100%.
Yeah.
True.
And then other people kind of go, well, it's just wheels, isn't it? No, they're the right.
Some people don't like soft tops because it changes the shape, and it does. It changes the shape of the car dramatically. I had, I'm lucky. I've managed to get a few cars. I've had some really nice cars over the years, but I've ended up going back to Aston. I remember I had a soft top Lambo, and it was in baby blue. It's one of the Huracan, the purple. Nice car. Tended to let go at the back end too early for me. It was a bit.
Can I suggest you just push the throttle a bit less, perhaps?
Well, yeah, that as well. But every now and again, you just felt the back.
A bit twitchy, aren't they?
Yeah, you wouldn't get that normally in a Ferrari, but you do in a Lamborghini. The Ferrari's like glue; it's like it's on rails. It's just but the thing is about the Aston, they're not the best handling cars, and they're not the cars in the world. What Aston are for me is my childhood because of Bond, because of growing up with this iconic DB5, and then being able to have that brand and look down at the steering wheel. And look at the badge on the steering.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's incredible. How lucky am I? Try not to take it for granted that you're in something very special, which a lot of people like. And I think you do get a different reaction in different cars. If you're in a Ferrari, people look at you in a different way.
They don't like you, I find.
And then if you're in an Aston, if you're driving down the motorway on the outside lane, how everybody is now, because nobody drives in the first two lanes.
Yeah, I do.
So driving down, if you're in a Ferrari, a lot of people will just stay where they are.
Absolutely.
you're in a Lambo, you're definitely staying where you are. If you're in an Aston, they pull over and the window goes down, and they want to hear it roar.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true that actually in Porsche is a bit like that. People don't mind people in Porsches, I think, because they all look similar.
Yeah.
But Ferrari, people just don't like you.
Yeah, I think there's an.
Is that a British thing? Do you think? Is that the jealousy?
It's not jealousy. I did a program called Road Trip, and I did Germany, Italy, and France, and I traveled through each of the countries. Understand why and what cars. The French don't have any sports cars. The Alpine is the recent one. And you can't say Bugatti because it wasn't French, German. So you're looking at a whole country that really don't look down the nose at they prefer the nice houses. They've got chateaus everywhere.
I saw that program, Paul, and actually, funny enough, and it's exactly kind of what we were talking about before, is that they're just not into cars, aren't they? It's strange. As a nation, they're not car people. And I think, was it not that show where did you not go to a golf club or something, which ordinarily we'd be the car park in a golf club is very much says all about what you are, and anything that you want to kind of project into society is left in the car park, whether you're driving an Aston or a Ferrari or a Range Rover or whatever. And actually, you went to this golf club in France, and it was just little Citroens and Renaults and whatnot, just battered old things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was weird. I mean, in Italy, though, I rode around Rome with Bruno Tognoli in an open-top orange Lamborghini. And everybody, brilliant. And you could roar down the road. People were clapping. It's the same in a Ferrari and a Maserati. I had a Pagani Huayra Roadster, the prototype. They allowed me to race around the track, which was
insane, that thing, isn't it?
Oh, it was just beautiful. And the Italians were all clapping because you were in a fast car going fast.
It's a culture thing. You're right.
In Germany, it was the same. I was with I can't remember his name, German racing driver in a Mercedes on an autobahn flying down the road. And the Germans were very appreciative of their car, and the English are the same, but the French no. But I think there is an element of, if you've got a nice Mini in this country, people appreciate a nice Mini.
Yeah, that's true.
If you've got a nice car and it's been looked after, then people would appreciate that too. And I think there's that sort of thing in the UK,
It's like going back to that French thing, Dave. If you park a car in the middle of Paris, you often see the person that's trying to get in a gap just smash their way in.
Oh yeah, literally.
And it's literally you look at them and they look at it and say, well, this is just what we do over here. We bash our way into parking spaces. And that's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, there's a question for you. What's the fastest you've been in Germany?
Well, actually, I maxed out an i8 BMW at 167 because they're limited anyway. I couldn't believe it went that high because it was meant to be 155. Mercedes, I did about 170 something.
It's quick, isn't it?
On an autobahn or on a track?
On an autobahn, on a track. Le Mans, I was doing just shy, about 182, 183 down the Mozambique going down there. But I was in the 4 then, which was tuned, and it was running quite nicely. But actually, the 4 and the 3 coming down there can be very similar.
But we've talked about autobahns before, haven't we, Jason? In so much as it's a 2-lane thing for me. It's one, the fact that they don't have the restrictions, but when you don't have that extra lane, it's a really difficult skill to be doing, because if you're hammering down doing north of 140, 150, you've then got trucks on the inside lane doing 65, 70. They pull out. You've got to be looking behind you as much as you have in front of you half the time, because trying to strike that balance between sitting somewhere between those 2 lanes is really difficult.
I agree. I mean, I think it is. You do have to have eyes everywhere. It does worry me. I mean, I've been across on the motorbike doing the same thing, and on the
have you?
You're not seen, so really, you've got to be really, really, because you just expect not to be seen, and if you get past, you think, "Woohoo!" I've done it.
Yeah,
because that's a passion of yours, isn't it? The bikes.
Yeah, I ride Ducatis, and some of them, are big, powerful, very powerful motorbikes. I just think everybody should have ridden a motorbike in their lives to understand what to look for when you're scanning the road, scanning the little side streets, who's going to pull out on you.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, you're right there.
Make people more aware of what's going on around you.
Do you feel, because I don't feel confident on a bike. I've ridden bikes, but I didn't grow up with them. And I never feel like I'm in total control. I never know where the edge is. And it could be right here or a long way up the road. I've done a couple of track days on bikes. Do you feel at home on them?
I mean, I do now. I mean, I've been riding for years, but it still makes me nervous because, I mean, you know, if you jump from a car into a bike, you're braking much earlier on a bike. And actually your line difference as well, because normally on a car, if you late brake, try and square it off, find your apex and then bullet it out. But on a bike, it's different. You're hanging. You have to hang there for almost semi-throttle before you get on it. It's going to be high-sided straight off it. But I love the freedom of the bike, the acceleration of the bike, the tucking into the corners. It's just such a you can smell the freshly cut grass. You can smell, you know what I mean? You feel more part of life when you're on a bike.
Have you ever bitten the tarmac?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Have you? What, on the road or on track days? No,
on the road, funny enough. Cyprus, I had a build over a cliff.
Hey?
I was taking it was north of Paphos, and there's a couple of little cliffs that overlook. And we were out riding, and what happened was the tourist was stopping to take a great photograph of the city, tearing off up the road and kicking all the shingle out onto the road. So I came into the corner, and then halfway around, front wheel went. So I lifted it up to try and straighten it. Of course, it was only one way, and it was going down this cliff. So the bike went down. I managed to sort of skid on my chest and grab the side of this tree before I went down.
You're joking? Wow.
It was quite scary, yeah.
Paul, obviously you've owned some interesting and impressive cars over the years and your bike collection. Is there still a motoring itch from either that you're yet to scratch?
I've had a couple of projects over the last 4 years. I'm selling at the moment. I bought a Benetton Formula One car, Fisichella, and
have you driven it?
Sorry,
have you driven it?
No. And this is the thing. I got it. It wasn't working. I never had an engine. It was just a rolling chassis. A lot of people say, "I've got a Formula One." Yeah, you haven't. You've got
You've got an ornament.
Yeah. You basically got a nice brooch. So ultimately, I bought this car with the idea of putting it back onto a track. So I gave it to a very, very clever engineers up north, who we put a brand new V10 Judd in it, and they've finished it. It's taken 4 years. And now it's a fully operational Formula One car, and I haven't taken it out. I hope.
Oh, mate, you've got to.
Well,
you've got to take it out.
I'm going to take it to a couple of tracks to get used to get a feel for it.
I'll help you. I'm good in those. I can run it in for you.
So ultimately, that was a project. So that's now up for sale for me, just to get rid of it. But I did end up buying last year a Casey Stoner's 2007 World Championship bike. That is a week away from being finished. It's been totally rebuilt. And to have a screaming 800. The thing is, I can't keep them at the house. So I keep them at these race places. So for me to go and see them, I have to go there and go. And so the 800, I'm really looking forward to having a go at that. Shaky Byrne is a good friend of mine who's ex-BSB champion.
Multiple, yeah.
And Carl, I did ask Carl Crutchlow, would you mind shaking it down for me? And he said, I'll do it. I said, right.
I bet.
I've got a couple of guys that can warm it up. There's no way I can ride a bike like that. You know, it's crazy quick.
Casey Stoner, he was a ledge, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'd love him to ride the bike, actually, to see what he thinks of it. Because the guys that did all the work are ex-Ducati MotoGP mechanics. And they basically enjoy ripping these bikes apart. I mean, the videos they used to send were just the software upgrades, the battery runs on several voltages. It's just the detail, and because the prototype bikes, they're one-off, and they just the engineering side of it really excited me. I thought they were amazing bits of kit.
Yeah. Where do you sit on electric cars?
I had a tie cancel recently, Turbo S.
Mate, how quick is that?
Oh, but wasting it. I always did the 0 to 60, you know, and I always stopped and then put the full launch control, and then and
it's insane, isn't it?
It's F1 level. I mean, it's Formula One stuff up to 60. Nothing catches you unless it's another one.
Yeah, and
then it sort of dies off after a ton. It's sort of, you lose that edge, but it's that acceleration always puts the smile on your face. And I sold it. I saw the prices going up, and I thought, I'm going to get rid of it. I think so. I thought I'm not using it too much at the moment, and so I ended up getting rid of it. And I'm sad that I did, because of all the fuel crisis now. And I thought, I could have kept it and used it properly. You know, I will probably end up getting another one. I think
I was about to say, yeah.
Porsche doing something to upgrade the range to about 350, and I think it needs to be slightly higher. It's
I agree.
It's only a matter of time, isn't it? Because that's going to be the progression in terms of the technology. Is ultimately going to be the battery life and the range, isn't it?
Yeah, and chargers. I mean, the thing is with chargers, to get those high-speed chargers, you're only looking at a handful. Yes, they are getting more now, but Tesla have got this network which Porsche can't tap into, and I think that needs to be addressed. You know, to sort of open up to all electric.
And why is that? Excuse my ignorance. Is that to do with the different kind of the charge point, or is it?
I think I have no idea. I think it must be I know Tesla have personally spent a lot of money setting up these chargers. I don't think they're conducive with Porsches anyway, but I'm no doubt there could be with a bit of adjustment.
Yeah, I think they've got a different plug.
Right, listen, final question. Music and motoring go well together, we think, Paul. So we need your fantasy drive or ride, please. Where are you? Where are you going? What are you listening to? And most importantly, what are you in or on?
Oh, interesting. I would say I would be listening to some Led Zeppelin in the Amalfi Coast.
Nice.
In my DB5, I'd be happy with that.
Oh, mate, I think we all would, wouldn't we?
Well, on that beautiful image, I think you've got to take us out, Jason.
Well, unfortunately, that is it for this week's Fueling Around, powered by Adrian Flux. As the UK's largest specialist insurance broker, Adrian Flux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help you save money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance. Dave, as always, thanks to you, but a huge thanks to our very special guest this week, the one and only Mr. Paul Hollywood.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely superb stuff. Thank you, Paul. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at Jason Plato or at David Vitty. And if you've liked what you've heard, feel free to give us a 5-star rating, press the subscribe button and share the podcast on all your socials.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Ta-da!